Welcome back to my channel, Data BI SQL. So, in today's video, I'll continue with the series of Amazon interview questions. And today's interview questions is right. I mean, it's very tricky and very complex, I would say. So this is definitely probably qualifies for the very advanced level or at least an intermediate level interview question. So these kind of questions, right, will most probably be asked for the senior roles, right? So senior BI engineer or senior data engineer or even senior data scientist, because it's basically if you structure this kind of questions in your mind, right? I mean, just read each and every sentences and then see what they are asking for and look at the table structure. Then it'll make it very easy for you, and we'll cover that because in this one of the clause that they have also mentioned in the queries is just to confuse you. It's like just to put more pressure on you, as in not pressure, but just they want you to think, right? How will you handle that? So it is definitely a complex query. If you look at the query, final query, actually, when I started building the query, if you look at the final query, it's pretty simple actually. But you have to put your thought process. If you have worked on SQL, right? I mean, you will be able to structure this and step by step. But just wanted to bring this up, this kind of questions, because it is tough actually, because what happens is when there are 4 or 5 tables presented to you, and then you have to get the data out of that. You need to think like how you are going to join and how and what will be the output, and look at the question and all, right? So we will go through that. So before I start my video for today, right? I mean, I just wanted to request you guys to please subscribe to my channel, and please like my video. And that will encourage me to make more videos, right? So let's get started. So in today's question, so what is the question? So first of all, they have given 5 tables, okay, and we'll go through these 5 tables. So let's go through the 5 tables first, and then look at the question, right? That's that way you understand the data and understand the questions also, right? So the first table is contest. So what happens is there is a contest ID, then there is a hacker ID, and there is a name, right? So there are only 3 records here, if you see. And then there is a colleges. Okay, so when you say colleges, so if you see there is a contest ID here, right? And then there is a college ID. So obviously each college will have a contest, right? So if you see both the tables, right, the contest ID is common. So that should click your mind that there'll be a join involved somewhere here, right, with these 2 tables. So the college ID and contest ID. Then you have challenges. So in challenges, you have challenge ID and college ID. Again, if you see the college ID over here will join to the college's college ID, right? So that it's basically, it's joined between different tables, right? That's very important over here. And just putting in your mind how the joins are going to work, right? That's also very important. So college ID, if you see there is one challenge ID, and each college ID can have a different challenges, correct? It's pretty straightforward. Then you have 2 fact tables, so view stats. See view stats for each challenge ID, they have the view stats. Okay, so total views is 26 and 15, and unique views is 19 and 14, right? So there are total views 26, but unique view is 90. Okay, so for each of the challenge ID, there are this view. So again, challenge ID will join back to the challenges table, right? So if you were to describe this, right, I mean, what schema? If you were to describe this is kind of a snowflake schema, right? It's a normalized schema. There are 2 tables which has a challenge ID, right, joining to the challenge ID. Then challenge ID in turn joins to the college ID, and college ID in turn join to the contests, right? So if you have not already looked at my video of star and snowflake schema for the data warehousing concept, I do recommend you to go and look at that, right? I have a playlist also for data warehousing. So I request you to go and look at that, because that's very important, right? I mean, if you get that concept, then it is very easy for you to understand this kind of questions, right? Because immediately when I looked at the table structure, I thought, oh, this is a snowflake schema. That's how they are basically joining the table. So I think it's very important to have the core concepts clear, right? Because eventually that will also be asked, like, the last star schema is better, snowflake schema is better, or the star schema or snowflake schema, what is the design and things like that. So I mean, if you're attending the architect interview, right, senior data architect interview, then those kind of questions will definitely be asked. So I do recommend you to go and look at that. I put a link in the comments for that video and the playlist as well, so that way you can go and refer to that. But this is definitely a Snowflake schema. And if you look at and then you look at the final table, the challenge ID is again presented here, right? So for each challenge ID, what are total submission, and out of that, how many are accepted submission, right? So total submission 34, but accepted only 12. Correct. So again, challenge ID joins to the challenger table, right? So these two are fact table, and then there's a dimension table, three-dimension table, right? Okay. Now let's look at the question. So John interviews many candidates from different colleges using coding challenges and contest. Okay. So challenges table and contest is a contest, right? Write a query which displays the contest ID, hacker ID, name, sum of total submissions, total accepted submission, total views, and total unique views, right? So we just saw that, right? I mean, there are total submission, total accepted submissions in this table, submission stats, and then total views and total unique views is in view stats, right? So here one thing very good is the aggregated columns are already stored in the table, right? Because the columns just stored, they are just exactly asking that, right? So you don't have to, do any you don't have to do anything from your side, right? I mean, aggregation or you have to do aggregation. Obviously, you have to do summation because you can have one challenger ID, one challenge ID, two challenge ID in this table, right? So it has to sum up the data, correct? Of both this, right? Submission and accepted submissions. But they have given the straightforward column, so that's a very good thing, right? So that you just need to keep that in mind, and then go and look at contest ID, hacker ID, name is in which table. So if you look at the tables one by one, the contest. So all three columns are in one table. That's very good, right? I mean, so first thing, just focus on the select clause from where the joins are going to come, right? I mean, sorry, where the select columns are going to come. So contest table, view stats, and submission stats, right? Very clear. Now, second thing, think about there, can we join context and view stats directly? Answer is no, right? Because there is nothing common between them. How will you join them? What we saw in view stats, we saw challenge ID in view stats, correct? We saw challenge ID in view stats. So challenge ID is how you join the fact table. Do you have challenge ID here? No. Do you have challenge? So how can you join contest table? You can join it only through colleges, right? Because contest ID is only in the college ID. In the college ID, if you have to join, where you need to go? You need to go to challenges, correct? So basically, you know, if you have to go to contest, you have to go through these three joins. So basically, you have to join every tables, right? Because that's how there's no that so that's how the snowflake is, right? So sometimes that's why we don't prefer snowflake schema, right? Because as you see here, you have to do join. So if you do more joins, obviously your performance will slow down, correct? So that's why that's another interview question. Will you prefer snowflake or star? Answer would be mostly star because that will reduce the joins, right? But in this case, they have already given us the table structure and all, so they probably will. But we understood that in order to get all the data, we have to join everything, right? That's one thing. The column, so column and select clause and from clause is now sorted. Now what they are asking is exclude the context from result if all four sums are zero, right? So and sorted by contest ID, okay? Sorted by contest ID. So you need to order by contest ID, okay? Just make sure, okay? And then from the result, if all four sums are zero. So what they are saying is actually, if you see the data they have given, this clause, even if you don't put, that's fine. But that's what they are saying, that all four sums are zero. If all the four sums are zero, then don't basically exclude that. Okay, so what does that mean? If one of them is not zero, include that. Correct. So that's why what you need to do is you need to filter clause. You need to have total submission is not equal to zero, or accepted submission, or total views or total unique views not equal to zero, right? So what does this mean? It's or condition means if one of them is one more than zero, it will get included, correct? So that's your so you sorted your select clause, you sorted your filter clause, and you sorted your order by clause, right? Now we need to comes the join clause, right? So all the columns that are asked, we got it, right? We have to join contest with the college on a contest ID. We have to join challenges and colleges, right? On the college ID, right? That's what we discussed. That's how you will be able to join to the fact table, right? Now, after that, these two columns are coming from one table, correct? Total submission and accepted submission, right? That's from submission stats table. And then the views column is coming from the view stats table, correct? Right? Both. So what we need to do is we need to get these two columns and form a and treat it as like a table, okay? And why I'll tell you, because we need to a left join, okay? Because null records are there, sometimes coming up, right? I mean, it will come up. I'll show you, and that's why you have to do this, okay? You have to just treat to get those tables. So what we are doing is here we are taking challenge ID, sum of total views, sum of unique views from the view stats table group by challenge ID, right? We are doing the by challenge ID, we are getting it. Why challenge ID? Because we have to join based on challenge ID, right? Remember that we have to join these two fact tables are joining to the challenge table on the challenge ID, correct? So that's why we are grouping by challenge ID, correct? So if you see on challenge ID, again left join the second table, again challenge ID, right? See again challenge ID we are doing, and we are getting other two metrics, right, based group by challenge ID, right? So so excuse me, so basically what we did is we joined the simple joins for the dimension table. With fact table we are going to do the left join, okay? And I'll come to that left join, right? So entire data set is taken out, right? I mean, entire data set is formed now, right? And you have to group by contest ID, hacker ID, con name, because that's what they are saying, right? To display the data by, right? They're already telling you that display this data based on contest ID, hacker ID, and name. Show that, right? So obviously, when you have to show that, you have to group by that, right? Because without that, it will not work, right? You need to include that in group by clause. So here, let's just run this query, okay? So if you see contest ID, hacker ID, rows, name, and 111, 39, 156, 56. So that's basically sum of all these things, right? Total submission, sum of accepted submission. So we can say this as total underscore submissions, right? I'm just going to just rename one, but you can rename all of them if you want, right? So it's a total submissions, right? So okay, let's remove this. So that way it is giving you the data you want, right? Now why we need to do left join? Because let's say if we don't do the left join, okay, we just do a normal join, then let's see what happens. Because these two records are null, right? For Angela, right? For Angela, this total submission and sum is null. If we remove the left join, the Angela's record should most likely be dropped, and which we don't want, right? See, because Angela's record will be dropped, right? Because two of the sum that we did had a null value, correct? It's a null value, but still we have to show the other two value, correct? Correct. The other two, that is total views and so Angela had total views and total unique views, but she did not have any submissions and accepted submissions, right? And here, why the data is also coming up? Because if you see the clause, right, that we are saying 0, 0, 0 or condition, right? In this case, these two are zeros or, but these two are not, right? So that's why we need to bring up that record, correct? So that's why we need to bring up that record, okay? So that's where, I, we have to do a left join, right? So so in this case, right? So if you see the final query, right? Even it looks big, but if you have gone a structured way based on the question that is given to you, finally you were able to solve it, right? So first was like determine the select clause, determine the tables, look at the structures of the table, see where the joins are going to happen, get the needed columns, right? Define the where clause, define the filter clause, right? And then define the order by clause, and then form the entire query, right? And get the data, right? Now the reason I was saying is this particular clause, they are saying that result if all four sums are zero, right? Exclude if the result was, that's just to trick you and just to test your knowledge on having, right? Because here you have to do group by. So they want to see that how do you include that in a filter, right? I mean, are, uh, are you going to, probably how are you going to include the, like, are you going to use a where clause or are you going to use a having clause? Because here you have to use having clause, right? Because you are doing summation, right? You are doing group by and summation, so you have to use having clause. So that's also a test of your, basically test of your skills, right? I mean, so if you just were to run this, right, group by clause, then also the answer remains same, right? That means there was not a condition here which satisfied this, right? Okay. So that's why I'm just saying that they wanted just to trick you and test your knowledge, right? And how are you going to solve that? When they are saying that, if all results are sums are zero, right? Exclude that. So they want to know that how are you able to solve it, right? By putting it in having clause, and are you able to solve it by you putting or clause? Because if you put and here, you can't put and here, right? Because one of them comes true, then then you have to display the record, right? That's why you have to put a or clause, right? And then they're asking you to do order by also, and then they're asking you to get the complete data, and then we have to do a left join, right? Like you saw, if we don't do a left join, this record will get dropped, right? So it's basically, if you see, lot of it's basically testing of lot of knowledge, right? I mean, first of all, are you able to write subquery, right? So this is nothing but a kind of a subquery, as in, it's not a subquery, but it's kind of forming a table, right? And then doing a join with that. What join knowledge they are testing, inner join, left join, right? And they're testing your group by knowledge. They're testing your group by having knowledge. They're testing your filtering knowledge. They're testing your or end condition knowledge, right? And then they are finally testing your order by knowledge as well, right? That's why they're saying order by context ID, right? And then they are testing your, obviously, the overall structure or architecture knowledge, right? In this, if you see, they have tested your star schema, snowflake schema knowledge also, right? Because if you don't know that concept, it's going to be difficult for you to figure out the query, right? The moment I saw this particular tables, first thing I came to my mind, what kind of schema is this going to be, right? And immediately when I saw contest is connected to college, college is connected to challenges, it's a snowflake schema. So it just clicks you, and then it makes basically the thought process very clear. Excuse me. And then eventually makes it your query writing skill also clear, right? Uh, so this is the complex query, right? I mean, so I will include the scripts, right? Insert script and create table script and insert script, so you have the same data that I'm looking for. And then I'll include this final SQL query as well, so you guys can also practice it from your side. I hope this video was very useful to you. And please do subscribe to my channel and like my videos. That gives me a lot of encouragement to make this kind of video. Thank you, guys.